most of us have experienced anger and frustration sitting in an airport, sitting in an aircraft that's been unduly delayed. But this is what happened when a flight was delayed for over 13 hours and there was not adequate information. One passenger named Sahil Kataria, the man you see in the yellow hoodie, the yellow sweatshirt, pounced on the co-pilot who was making an announcement and punched him in the face. This shocking attack was caught on camera. This video, as you can imagine, has gone completely viral. That man in yellow, Sahil Kataria, has rightly been arrested. He's been booked by the authorities. There's a good chance he'll never fly again because he goes straight onto the no-fly list. But this incident is only symptomatic of something you've possibly been seeing everywhere on social media for the last few days this winter, especially in North India, and also representative of a larger downfall in passenger experience with airlines. You've seen people constantly posting on social media, complaining about one airline or the other, and this agony over airports and airlines has been building for the last few days and weeks, and this was the ugly climax of that. I want to try and make sense of it, but first I want to list for you some of the things that could be responsible for this complete breakdown. I have a graphic for you which breaks down the anatomy of the air travel mess. It's been put together. I've paraphrased some of the points made by a very popular aviation analyst named Bangalore Aviation on Twitter. You can go and check him out. But this is largely what he says, and I agree. Number one, passengers are not fully aware, not sensitized, and not fully aware of airline limitations, and that's why they tend to simply blame the airline. But the airlines are not blameless because airlines routinely don't give timely updates about cancellations or delays because they fear cancellations by those passengers. So they don't want to empower passengers with information because they think it'll hit their profits. Number three, inconsistent enforcement of civil aviation rules. Who maintains the no-fly, the no-fly list? Who actually imposes these punishments and enforces rules as far as timely updates are concerned on these airlines? And if such airline rules actually exist, how come they get away with not updating passengers, often driving themselves into this kind of criminal, unacceptable frenzy? And there is no justification for it. Number four, airports, some say, are focused on commerce and the real estate aspects of airports with restaurants and the mall-like culture inside airports, and they've ignored airside infrastructure. That gets ignored. And there are also many detailed, nitty-gritty priority failures and turf battles under the Airports Authority of India. So these are the broad points that most people will either agree or disagree on, but these have become talking points right now. The reason this has become an emotive issue and not just some faraway issue of chaos in an airport is because a co-pilot of an airline was physically assaulted by a passenger, and that is a terrible, terrible thing to happen. Kapil Kaul, CEO and director of Kappa India, is an aviation advisory and research firm and one of India's most respected civil aviation analysis voices, is with us. Kapil, good to see you. Thanks for your time here on India Today. Horrible incident, Kapil, but this has been building up, no justification whatsoever. But how do you read what happened? There can be no two ways about what needs to be done about this kind of criminal action. But, passenger discontent, anger against airlines, who do you blame here?
Well, sure, Shiv, good evening. First, the air rage is a global phenomenon. It's not restricted to India. And if you, our research shows that it's on rise significantly across the world. And the air rage is just not passenger to passenger, it's passenger to the crew. And in India, we don't take count of the unruly behavior with respect to the ground staff. We primarily link it to the in-flight because it has a safety implication, but there are significant unruly behavior with respect to the ground staff. They must be happening on a daily basis. So it's not new to India. Second is that, which is something that you touched upon, and I agree with that, with this, is that though we have a no-fly list, but if you do a poll, I think hardly anybody would be aware that what are the implications of an unruly behavior, because we don't educate the customer. He has no idea what an unruly behavior is. So when he is not, and we have so many first-time travelers, and possibly this may be a phenomenon with with regular travelers also, that they don't understand what an unruly behavior is, what a no-fly list is, what are the implications of such unruly behavior. And
Yeah.
if you don't educate in a very structured and a formal manner and about the implications of unruly behavior, you're going to have this quite often and quite regularly. This is the same case like educating a passenger about his rights in case there is a flight delay and cancellation. I don't really
Indeed.
think that how many people are aware that what are their rights once the flight gets cancelled. What we have got right, and if we follow a similar process, is that the airlines ask passengers to come 2 to 3 hours in advance. And you get texts and messages in multilingual options, so that you have to come 2 3 years, otherwise you will miss the flight. If we
Yeah.
follow a similar structured procedure to educate a customer in a multilingual manner that the unruly behavior has serious implications, and educate the passengers in a structured manner, I think you may see results. But right now, my view is hardly anybody really understands what no-fly list is. And
Yeah.
I don't think they know what is the behavior that's acceptable and what's the behavior that's not acceptable. So I think with a lot of first-time travelers coming into our system in millions and millions every year,
Yes.
it's
Indeed.
important that there is a structured way of educating a passenger about unruly
Okay.
behavior. I may
Kapil,
also
you've
add-
spoken
I may
about
also
you've
add-
spoken
I
about the
may-
sensitization and the
No,
bad
I want to
behavior
also add,
aspect of it.
Shiv,
I wanted to
add
also ask you
quickly.
about the anger against these airlines, and we're joined also by a pilot. We have Wing Commander R. Keskar, and I'll go to him in just a moment. Kapil, if I could get you in on that. Passengers, and again, I want to underline that at no point is such behavior justified. Nothing justifies violence of any kind, and this man should face the full extent of the law. But my question is, anger against airlines where passengers, reasonable passengers say, we don't get notified on time. Airlines are, wary of timely notifications about cancellations or delays because they fear that passengers will drop out of those flights and that'll hit their profits. Isn't that also true, Kapil?
Quickly just add that FAA, to curb the unruly behavior of passengers in a reauthorization bill, could fine up, and this is to be approved, could fine up to $37,000
Right.
in case the unruly behavior happens in the flight, and particularly where there are safety implications. So, apart from no-fly list, it is important that we get into a financial deterrent, which is very serious if we have to overcome it. Second, I think you are right in many cases, though the airlines and the airport operators are facing an unprecedented impact because of fog.
Okay.
But yes, I think we could do a lot more on creating a transparent information sharing system. But that's not enough. If you create a transparent and very structured information sharing system, that is one part of the problem.
Okay.
The second part of the problem is, how do you engage with the customer during when you have this unprecedented fog and delays that disrupt not only Delhi, the spoke airports, and almost the entire national network of the airline. So one is the information sharing system. How can we make it very effective? How can we make it rule-based, which is very important? And we heard the minister saying that an SOP is going to be created. But the second more important factor would be that the airlines, the engagement with customer on various platforms to ensure that.
So communication, transparency as far as information, I think we can agree needs to happen. Wing Commander Kesarkar, if I could bring you in, sir, you've been a pilot. I'm sure, you've had your own share of dealing with unruly passengers. Who do you blame in this, sir? It's easy to look at this and feel very, very upset about the violence by a passenger. But there's a real problem here. Who do you blame, sir?
Good evening, fellow panelists, and good evening, sir. Generally, we can't blame anyone here. What is happening, especially if you see the incident which has occurred, this has occurred during the fog time. So what happens during fog? The flights are, if you take a statistics way back, over 5 years, 10 years back, during the month of November to February, the flights are generally delayed, especially in the northern belt, because of the heavy fog. And what happens is every airline wants to, push the passengers or push the flight so that he'll be able to connect to the next flight. But what happens because of the heavy fog, the flights are delayed. Now, at times, even the airlines falter is, I would say, I'll take a liberty saying falter in not informing passengers on
Yeah.
time. So at times, because what happens without knowledge of pilots, OCC or we'd say commercial
Right.
staff, at times, board the passengers inside the aircraft. That is little difficult for passenger to understand. When he's
Okay.
inside the
So
flight,
I
if there
I
is
can
a delay,
assure all of our viewers only for paucity of time I have to close the show, and I apologize, Wing Commander, that we got you in late on the show. I would have liked to ask you a few more questions, but Kapil and Wing Commander Kesarkar, thank you for being with me. I assure you that this show is going to be on our spotlight through this week, as we will go into some of the more and more serious issues, and we will not shy away from asking the uncomfortable questions when you see such a ugly video come up. That's a wrap on 5 Live. Thanks so much for watching. 6 p.m. Prime with Akshata Nandagopal comes up next. Ram Bhakt Sadguru Jaggi Vasudev is live on India Today next.
Mega temple fervor grips Ayodhya.